I'm Susan Little, Product Marketing Manager at Acumatica and Real Estate, and 17 years as a technology executive, and he brings strong leadership. With just a couple of announcements before we begin. If you have any questions about the content of the session, please enter them in the Q&A chat in your viewing console. We will get to as many questions as we can at the end of the webinar. And lastly, this webinar will be available on demand after the event. Now on to the presentation, 5 ways live field data controls job costs. I'm delighted to turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Susan and Team Acumatica. I appreciate the opportunity to, according to McKinsey Global Institute in this study, projects end up coming in over budget. So this is a major problem. It's a problem for customers, it's a problem for companies, and profitability. So the other thing aside from this, 53% of the data that is being transferred is done manually and not utilizing apps or other solutions that are technology driven. And we believe strongly, and this case study supports, according to JB Knowledge's 2019 Construction Technology Report, that one of the large issues of overages, overruns, overcosts, and also the lack of ability to anticipate those issues in advance are the lag in data collection. One other statistic, this report shows that construction is the last major industry aside from agriculture and hunting in terms of technology adoption. Major issue for us as an industry, and especially trade verticals, in enjoying and taking advantage of the opportunities that technology presents us today, and that so many other industries are leveraging and profiting from. One other statistic, 42% of construction companies are still using paper and spreadsheets. I call this our paper and spreadsheet addiction, and it is a problem and something that, again, adds a great deal of issue and delay to collecting data, even if recorded accurately at some point. So as far as our company history and a little bit about my background, as Susan mentioned, I grew up in construction and the trades, was a business owning general contractor for many years. And also our CEO, Ryan Remkus, he also was a general contractor and self-performed, did subcontractor and trade specific work as well. And so it was through Ryan's direct experience that he was able to come up with the idea of creating what we have today as AboutTime Technologies. Ryan partnered with 2 software engineers, Corey Tanner and Russell Hansen, as our CTO and CIO. And between the 3 of them and bringing me on board, we all collaborated to create a digital and mobile data collection system on the Palm operating platform. So this goes back to the early 2000s. As you can see here, we started in 2003, and our initial goal and Ryan's vision for this was collecting data in real time on the project without utilizing paper. And so, of course, as we can see on this timeline, the Palm Pilot and Palm operating system was really the only mobile type device that was a computer of some sort to collect data out on a project. And we leveraged that for several years before BlackBerry came onto the scene. Once BlackBerry became a standard, again, we started to leverage other technologies such as GPS technology, collecting real-time records, synchronization and getting data back to the office was much simpler. Although AboutTime's enterprise offering initially was a server-based system and could not be accessed through the cloud easily, we knew that at the time we were leveraging the best available technology and technology that the industry was ready to adopt. As we continued forward in 2009 and into 2011, again, we continued to advance our solution by adding the Apple operating system and the Android. From there, again, we continued to innovate and take advantage of other things such as productivity units, as you see here in 2011, other metrics and dashboarding, rich data like pictures and photos and video, etc. But back in about 2014, we started hearing from customers that they wanted a cloud-based application. they needed more visibility and quicker access to their data no matter where they were at. And so we knew it was time to start developing a from the ground up, completely innovative, from the newest technology platforms available, a pure, true web-based system. So we went to work on developing WorkMax as a cloud platform solution, and I'll talk more about what some of those pieces are as we continue forward. So the future is bright. We are truly cloud-based, full access to the data as quickly as it can be made available to the cloud, and we're helping companies to innovate and get their job costs under control like never before, and enjoy that data in virtual real time or in real time as quickly as that data is collected. So from an agenda standpoint, we're going to talk originally on bullet 1 here about eliminating the errors through the Acumatica and WorkMax integration. We're also going to talk about facial recognition and what that looks like, and what true facial biometrics is versus other approaches that are not as automated or surely not as simple or quick to manage. The third bullet here, we want to talk about production units and tracking, and then we'll get into simplifying safety data collection and how that information is shared throughout the enterprise to management, safety managers, directors, those that need to be aware of those issues. And then we'll wrap up with talking about collecting live field data throughout the one application and then integrating that ultimately with Acumatica. So from a high level standpoint, the top challenges in job costing that we have found, we've done surveys to our customer base and prospects, and statistically speaking, the #1 issue and complaint that we heard from these surveys was their company resources are scattered. Businesses have people, equipment, tools, materials, other things that are spread throughout their enterprise, and they don't always know where those things are at, or who utilized them last, or even for what, let alone the total hours for a payroll that's going to run and be due every week, no matter what, rain or shine. So the next thing is disconnected systems, not having that data that's collected in the office or in the cloud where it can be accessed immediately. This is substantially impactful to businesses, because when you have data that was captured today on something that was completed today, you could potentially bill on that today or maybe tomorrow at the latest. And so to turn around billings for T&M work, for extras, for change orders, these things are not only imperative, but they become critical, not just for collecting in general, but to collect in a timely manner, so we're not paying interest and unnecessary fees and costs on money that we have already earned or on those things that we have completed. The third item in the survey was inaccurate field data. So misreporting, over-reporting, under-reporting on different parts of those daily field reports or job diaries. And then, of course, payroll is the largest variable expense in any construction business. And because of that, we want to get control of that right at the source, and that is the point of entry. And then the last thing is inefficient manual processes that get in the way of productivity. Processing payroll, tracking down timesheets, having to bug and call and text personnel within the organization to get paperwork and to get information. So they say time is money, and we also believe that accurate information is money. So if you could get timely and accurate information, you're going to be in the money. All right, so the first point we'll talk about is reducing labor costs with face recognition. So what happens in the WorkMax platform is when an employee punches in or out, we are able to enable a true biometric capture of their face. When this occurs, the data is locked and collected, shared with the cloud, and in the cloud we have the ability to do a facial comparison in our WorkMax control center. So when that record comes in, the facial recognition comparison is automatically done, and that image is given a score. And it will either meet the threshold or surpass it, or it will not meet the threshold. If it does not meet the threshold, it is flagged. So it requires no manual oversight from an individual without having it brought to their attention. So the system will do the heavy lifting and bring up those exceptions for your view, review, and editing or management of that data. The next thing, we are able to not only capture live field data, but also report on where employees are at, what they're working on, when they arrived. We've got reports like a roll call report that shows whose boots came to the projects, where are they at, what were they working on, and maybe when they were last absent. So if an employee that is active within your enterprise does not show up for work on a given day, that will hit our absentee report on the roll call report. So we're giving you visibility, and with all of the issues and reporting and also visibility that we need related to the COVID-19 pandemic and other things like this that are a safety concern, we're able to help customers know where their people are at, when they got there, when they left, to make sure that they have complete accountability of their labor and also their risks that might be out there on the projects. We also can prompt when logging time or production. We're able to bring up a quantity feedback form. So when an employee clocks out of trenching, or in this case, concrete work, we're able to track the metric. In this case, we wanted to call the concrete work square feet. And so they are prompted to put in the quantity at that time. Now, this can be done in the field live as they complete something, or it can be done later and added in the field, or worst case, it can also be added in the office if it's tabulated off of some other report or collection method within WorkMax. So multiple ways to get this data, but we are going to, as a setting and a workflow, force this prompt to come up when they complete a shift on a project task that requires unit entry. Now, if they did not complete something or don't have anything to report at this time, 0 is still considered a number. They're able to put 0 and keep going. Then tomorrow, if they want to tabulate what was done for a 2-day period, they could feasibly do it that way. So in any case, whatever the workflow, we're giving you the tools and the reminders and the workflow that will help your staff complete those things that are required of them. The other thing that WorkMax provides is we have a GPS and Geofence system. Now, these projects are pulled in from Acumatica. Their address and locale that come from the ERP are fixed on that project. So when an employee logs time to the project, their stamp is marked on a map to show exactly where they're at. In this case, if I have a half-mile radius being monitored here and they are 0.6 away from that project when they're putting time on it, that alert will come up. It does not prevent them from clocking in or out. It simply lets you know that they were not within the proximity that you deemed appropriate when they put that time in. So again, it doesn't prevent them from adding time. It just brings it to your attention that there may be an issue or a question that needs to be asked to make sure this data is correct. As far as the biometric and facial capture, each punch within the system in the mobile application, whether online or even offline, will gather the image of that punch. When that image is synchronized to the cloud, our system will do a facial recognition comparison. I've got a 97 and 98% match between these 3 images. And so my threshold, I have at 85% here. The icons come up in dark gray or black because there's no issue. Now, we'll get into the control center a little more specifically so you can see a little closer. But these red flags here are issues. And if I click in those, I'll be able to see what the problem was. It will show me the wrong images or who somebody tried to buddy punch for. This data does not go away. It is there as a record, as a part of the record. So again, if somebody tries to fudge the system or cheat it somehow, you'll have that empirical proof or data that there was an issue. Nextly, after the GPS and facial recognition, we have the ability on a transaction of clocking in or out, or on demand, whenever it's appropriate, for employees to fill out a digital form or questionnaire. So in this particular case, upon clock out, the WorkMax system has a setting where this employee was able to have this form launched automatically. And it's an injury and required break form. And so the questions are custom to you. Our implementers and trainers will help set up the questions or the forms or the things that you need for your organization uniquely. And then we will train you how to utilize that tool so you can build more forms or additional options that may be helpful to your business. As you can see here, 3 questions are being asked. These are safety and HR related. Also, we have injury and accident, of course, and then required meal breaks. But the new thing that we have a lot of customers taking advantage of are the COVID-19 symptom type questions. Now, these can be done on clock in and out. So these are settings, and I'll show you in the mobile application here in a minute exactly what that looks like live. And then at the end, you can see I've required. This red asterisk means that those questions are required. I must sign the form in some form or fashion and hit save in order to finish my transaction and actually clock out off the clock. So this is allowing the employee to give the required feedback as deemed appropriate as a workflow, and to force and make sure that they're completing those safety items that have been brought to their attention and their workflow. Once those forms are collected, again, whatever form is being completed, those questions, again, are tabulated and are generated into a PDF report, and that report can automatically be emailed to the appropriate people. So immediately, a copy will be given to the HR director, the safety director, management, whoever is on your distribution list for that item. Secondarily, we have the ability to add a third-party external email to any form that is completed. So if there is an owner or a contractor or somebody that needs a copy of a change order when it has been signed out in the field, it can be done right from the mobile device in real time. And so when it's time for billing or settling out the invoice on that project, you can deliver that signature that they gave upon approval immediately along with the invoice. So very helpful in collecting payment that is due and has been earned. One of the other modules within the platform, we've talked about time and forms. These are both able to work offline and either on demand or within workflow settings. Things can be prompted. This is the same with equipment or assets. These can include small hand tools, heavy equipment, yellow iron, trailers, toolboxes, PPE equipment, whatever needs to be tracked and monitored as far as who has it, where it was utilized, how long, etc. This also feeds into not only managing the assets where they're at in their history, but also for billing. We're able to collect those hours that the equipment was operated or being utilized, either in real time or at the end of the day, or even at the end of the week if that's what's desired. So I'll show you what those tools look like as well. But tracking the equipment, who used it last and where and when and for how long, also helps reduce equipment loss, and ultimately make sure that you're not sending people all the way across town or to another city to get a piece of equipment or maybe a backhoe or a crane or a lift or some other equipment that is going to take time and resources to go and retrieve and then haul to the new location when maybe they had something that was a mile away from them and they just were not aware of that they could have utilized. And this also reduces to a great degree unnecessary equipment rental. So bringing it all back to the key and the point of all of this, we have a live connection and an API integration with Acumatica. So we're able to pull these data points from Acumatica and also feed data back that was collected in WorkMax back over to Acumatica. So if you're running your payroll or job cost reports in Acumatica, that data is being collected by WorkMax. Now, secondarily, and I'll show you the tool, we have an external tool from the API called ConnectMax. And what ConnectMax does is allows you to take additional data or data that is configured differently for another purpose and format it appropriately. So yes, we can feed those things collected back into Acumatica. We can pull the projects, project tasks, employee lists, all of those different data points from Acumatica, but we also have the ability to report out in a format that is designed by you through ConnectMax. into the format type like a CSV or a spreadsheet or a tab or fixed length, etc. So different file formats. That key of integration is imperative in automation and going paperless, and again, streamlining and controlling those cost overruns that are so prevalent. More than that, and for me as a contractor, historically looking back, the challenge was always visibility. We would meet weekly to try and have a catch-up meeting with my entire group and team that was managing our projects. And oftentimes I would get information that something was completed, something was finished, something was due to be done. And when I went out to do site visits, those projects may be 1 or 2 weeks behind where I was just told this morning in the meeting that the project was actually at. So this will give you real-time visibility of data from your desk or from wherever you're at, just through a simple cloud login. All right, with that, I'm going to bring up a live view of WorkMax, and I'm going to look at 2 different pieces. So this is the WorkMax Control Center. It's a cloud login access. You see here time records that have been collected, either through a mobile device or a computer or online. The totals are here. There's other things that we'll talk about more specifically, but this data is collected in a live manner and shared with the cloud so that anyone within your enterprise that has access or has been asked to manage that data is going to have that visibility. All right, so from that, let's go out to the mobile device and look at what that looks like. So from a simple standpoint, I've got a PIN pad that looks much like a telephone or an ATM screen. I'm going to put a simple PIN number in, and you see here I have options within the platform. I've got time clock, timesheet, time review. So these are all related to time and labor and job costing. And then I have equipment and forms. So these are buttons that I can access on demand anytime because I've been given access as an employee. I'm going to hit time clock, and you see here's my project, Eugene Airport Construction. I hit the clock in button, and when I log in, I'm presented with a list of project tasks related to that airport job. I'm going to say I'm doing brickwork, and now up comes the photo facial recognition screen. You'll also notice below this, I have a camera icon. With COVID-19, I have the ability to click the front-facing camera on the device instead of the rear-facing camera and actually capture biometrics for another employee without handing them my device. That's the reason we have that front-facing camera option. So now I'm looking at my computer screen and my hand. So this would be an employee that I'm facing, and I'm helping them authenticate with their biometrics without physically touching my device. So another innovation, an example of WorkMax's commitment to adapting to the changing market and also allowing businesses to have those tools that they need. So I'm going to go back to a normal clock in. You'll also notice I have a note field here. I can say whatever I want. I can do a voice to text, or I can type it in, need 1 more pallet of brick. I hit save. That note now comes in with the time entry. So again, I've got some project management tools along with the time and labor. Again, on the right, you see I have brickwork. Here's the project, date and time, real time, my notes, my facial recognition. When I hit confirm, I'm also getting a GPS stamp of where I'm at physically. That's one workflow for an individual putting in their own time. We also have, and you'll notice, I have either groups or other employees on a list. Now that I'm clocked in, I have the ability to manage time and labor for other people on my crew. I can say Warren Scott, Ryan Englehart, and Maxwell Baker are on the crew today. Together, they are all working on, let's say, 8-inch masonry block. So rather than brickwork that I was working on, I'm now assigning these 3 to that project at this time. I hit confirm, and now they're on the clock. So whether it's one individual or a foreman managing his crew, we're giving you multiple ways to collect time for employees. Now the next thing that I'll show you related to time is the timesheet. This is a digital timesheet after the fact Basically, similar workflow where you're picking your crew, your guys, the project. I can click at the top here in the project list and build a timesheet on a different project. Maybe they're at the Cliffs Lodge construction project instead of the Eugene Airport. Now for ease of time, I've also already completed the timesheet so you can see quickly what that looks like. Basically, I have these 4 employees. They've worked varying hours, so I have the ability to control even different hour sets and different cost codes. I have the ability to collect their signature for approval of their time as a manager, or them on the line of their hours as an individual employee. All of this data also gets synchronized just like a time punch when the mobile device connects up to the cloud and sends that data for your visibility management and processing. So whether it's real time or digital time entry after the fact at the end of the day or the end of the week, or one employee doing their own time, or a foreman or crew leader managing time for others, we have multiple workflow options. Those can all be scaled out within various parts of your business, even differently. So the workflows are not monolithic. You have the ability to decide which crews, which projects are run, and which way the time is collected for each of those. As another workflow option, I've got another employee here that I have a different setup for. So Wesley, you notice, does not have assets or equipment. He's simply got forms and time clock and time review, no time sheet. When Wesley goes to clock in, he picks his job. Let's say he is at the line fin storage unit and clocks in. You'll notice with Wesley, he is served up a form before he can log in. Now what I have here are COVID mandatory survey questions. So please answer honestly, required. Okay. Are you feeling healthy and well? Yes. Do you have any symptoms? No. If I did, I could pick which symptoms. I also have an embedded link here. This link is custom to you. You can put it in the form. And in this particular case, I have a safety video that I'm requiring my employees to watch when they clock in. I can change this link out on my form on demand or when needed. This one's on proper hand washing. So, and this is linked to just YouTube in this particular case. So wherever you have that video or training hosted, they can access it through a link in the form. I've got a questionnaire. Did you watch the video? Yes. Or I can do a yes or no toggle. I put both so you can see their varying options. It's just set up. And then Wesley needs to sign off that he answered these questions appropriately. Now that form is emailed off to who needs it. It's logged in the system. And now that he's done, he has the ability to pick his task grading. You'll notice grading was the only one there. There was no brickwork, and that was because on this project, it is project specific. So WorkMax will pull in those project specific tasks related to your Acumatica setup, so they are picking from the correct list all of the time. Hit confirm. Now he clocks in. Now the other thing, when Wesley goes to clock out at the end of the day, he simply hits the out button, and now you'll see a completely different set of questions. This is a required clock out form that I've turned on for Wesley. You'll also notice this is employee specific. So every employee in the organization does not have to have this form. However, they could. So you can assign it appropriately to everyone or have a short exemption list, or you could just assign certain forms to certain people. No, there were no injuries. Yes, I took my breaks. And no, I'm not feeling symptoms. So I sign off. And now he's able to put in his quantity of grading because we required unit entry. He did 1,200 square feet of grading. Hit confirm. We've collected his time, his labor, his equipment, his assets or tools. We've collected the project task, and we're also feeding this to payroll. So lots of things happen in just a few quick seconds with a real-time system that will share this with the cloud in WorkMax. All right, the last thing from the mobile standpoint, we also have Spanish language capability. So the employee has the ability, based on their language preference, to have the navigation happen in their language, whether it's English or Spanish. This is a setting per employee. So again, Carlos, he's going to navigate the app in Spanish. All right, now that we've logged time, put data in the system, I want to go to time review. Now, if I review my clock entries here, I can go on a varying calendar day, like on the 7th, and I'm able to view exactly who worked on which project for how long. If I look at yesterday, the 8th, you see I have 3 different employees that work different shifts, 10 hours, 9 hours, 58, 9:59. So this is to the minute. We do have rounding rules, so if you want it to be to the nearest 5 or the nearest 15, the system can automate that for you, but we do collect it in real time and give you those totals. The other thing we can do is, as a foreman or crew leader, I can come in and sign off on these times and approve them. That signature will follow all the way through to the WorkMax Control Center for complete visibility of that data. So now that that data has been collected, we have the ability to view it here in the WorkMax Control Center. In the WorkMax Control Center, I'm going to click in the time window, the time editor, and we're able to see for a given shift or the pay period week, I'm sorry, here, the 5th through the 11th, here's the data that's been collected. I've got the total hours, I've got the signature approvals that came in on those shift records. Once I'm ready to close out or complete those records for payroll, I simply check them, hit batch, and what that does is moves those into a non-payroll state. Now I had flags on these, so I'm going to look through these before I batch these records and make sure there's no issues. See, I've got quantities here in this particular one. I come over to batch per employee, and it brings all of those records for Steve Church onto one line. Now he had 4 different days so far in this pay period for 34 hours total. Once I'm ready to process, add any rounding rules, break out overtime, apply rules that the system has set up that match your Acumatica setting, you'll notice he has 2 hours of overtime and 6 hours of double time or overtime 2 and 26 of regular. So this is preparing to send the data to Acumatica. Now, once I've done that, I already have set up in the back end a connection. All I have to do is from this screen that I close the records out, push this arrow, and that moves that data over into Acumatica automatically. So this integration is running, the time is being pushed in. If I come over to Acumatica and look at the employee time activities, those records are showing up here. You'll notice here I have regular time records, overtime records based on the rules. So all of that time for Steve Church is now shared with and pushed into Acumatica time activities and time card for payroll approval and processing. So very simple, all done on one screen in WorkMax once it's approved, and it's just going to show up in Acumatica. So that's the export integration of data collected. Now, to get data from Acumatica, employees, projects, project tasks, all those other data points that are housed in here, we have an integration connection here in WorkMax. I come to the settings. What you're going to see is I've got a subset list here of those Acumatica. Again, I've got a connection going right here. Employee import, project task import, etc. So these are basically the data points in Acumatica that are connected to the WorkMax database. So I've got a mapping here. My credentials are put in from Acumatica in this screen. All I have to do is hit run integration, and what it's going to do is it's connecting to this Acumatica database here, pulling those project tasks that are in this list, pulling all of these data items over into WorkMax through that connection. So that, if I come back over to the projects or project tasks, that list is going to map up with my Acumatica. So if I've got project tasks that drill down, those are all going to be brought in properly. Everything is pulled from Acumatica. So you have 100% data visibility, and without having any requirement of oversight, because it is a data-to-data connection between the two systems, which are both cloud-based. So real-time, very synchronous between the two systems. which again, ultimately, the point of the webinar is to eliminate those extra job costs and those overruns that we're having. And we're doing that and achieving that through automation. So, all right, with that, that concludes the overview of the system that we've been reviewing today. Let me quickly just come to the contact screen, and I'm going to wrap up. I had a couple of questions come in. I'll just go through the first couple. There are more, and I will send these answers back out to those who asked the questions. But the first one is, can the WorkMax mobile app work offline to capture time and forms, even if there isn't a cellular or data connection? Does the GPS work offline? So the answer is yes. Everything I've shown you today in the mobile app can be collected offline. We have companies in mining, oil and gas exploration, other industries that are very remote and have no ability to connect at certain times of the day or the week. And so everything collected can then be shared with the cloud once a connection is restored or available. The second question that came in, can I export other collected information from WorkMax, not just tied to payroll, like equipment or forms? I'm going to leave the contact screen very quickly and just show what tool we have to do exactly that. So right here, I have launched what I call ConnectMax. It's here in my icon tray. ConnectMax has the ability to export any set of data that's configured by me. I just move these items to the right and hit when I save that export out. All of that data then can be exported off and shared with other systems in a spreadsheet or other file format like I'm launching here. So yes, any data collected, whether it's time, forms, equipment, can be scraped out of the system from the cloud utilizing ConnectMax to put that data out into a different format. That's all the time we have today for questions. So thank you again for your attendance and for your attention. We appreciate the wonderful partnership that we have with Acumatica and this opportunity. So thank you, Susan Little and team, for your help and promotion of this opportunity to work together with customers and prospects. And for that, thanks again for joining, and we'll see you again on the next one.